Okay, students, we're going to look at chapter 12. This is called Media Basics. Again, I want to emphasize the fact that I know many of you uh, feel that we might be getting a little into the nitty-gritty with some of the terminology here, but it's important for you to know this in the marketing umbrella, um, certain concepts, words, vocabulary, so that you are an educated marketer. So let's talk about media in the world of change. And what do we mean by media? Because there's a lot of words, you know, we use certain words a lot today. We might not exactly know what they mean. So media refers to the way messages are delivered to the audience, back to companies and among audience members. Media are the channel step in the communication model conveying the message from the company brand to the customer. Sounds simple enough. But remember, media is the way the messages are delivered. Very different for a millennial versus a Gen X versus a Gen Z versus a um, a baby boomer. Okay, everything is different, and that is so important to understand that in this course. The messages move through channels of communication, and the media delivers the message. In traditional messaging, it was always a one-way process, the source to the receiver. Okay? Today's media, as we know, is very interactive. It's a two-way conversation, and media offers engagement opportunities to connect with brands, whether it be through their websites, whether it be through a contest, whether it be on a Instagram post, whether it be a 1-800 number. There's a hashtag. Lots of things are going on now that never did before. We're going to kind of start with and go through the evolution here. So IMC, that's integrated marketing communication, and the media. Media are contact points in that they connect a brand with the audience. Okay? They touch their emotions, they engage their minds. Delivery is the first step in connecting with the audience. Delivery opens the door to touching a customer in a meaningful way with the brand message, and the IMC plan are the multi-platform or multi-channel, and they're also multi-targeted. So as you know from doing your favorite ad just wasn't in print. It wasn't just on TV. It wasn't just on the radio. It wasn't just on a billboard. It wasn't just on an Instagram post. It was in all of those places. And how important is it for companies today to hit people up on all these different contact points? Very important. How do you know which contact points? That's what we're going to find out. So let's talk about the changes that have happened in the media. Media spending in 2015 passed its pre-recession peak because back in 2008, 2009, when we were in the recession, the first thing to go is marketing and advertising. It shouldn't, because we need to stay in our customers' minds, but it is. Media spending is moving away from traditional outlets, as you know, to vehicles that provide more feedback and accountability so that you know if someone actually saw your ad. How do you know? How do you know that your money was well spent? So TV and internet advertising will be nearly 60% of the total global ad revenue through the early 2020s. And I think we all know from taking this course and being a consumer and being a marketer that that is definitely the way that it's going. But there's a lot of other pieces that go into this strategy. And have you decided yet on the media outlet you're going to use for your team for Grace Notes? So this is interesting. From 2015 to 2018, I don't have the updated 2019 version, but you can see that not a whole lot has changed, but little incremental pieces on how we spend our money on media. Okay, what has changed? Okay, TV has gone down, only a few percentage points. Internet clearly has gone up. Mobile internet, big. It was at 10.4. Now it's more than doubled. Newspapers obviously have gone down. Magazines gone down. Radio, slight percentage change. Outdoor advertising, slight percentage change. Cinema, slight percentage change. So we knew where our biggest places were going to be is the mobile and internet, of course. So let's talk about media types here. So the plural noun media is the term for all types of print, broadcast, out-of-home, and internet communication. It's everything. The singular noun medium refers to each type. A media vehicle is a specific TV program, newspaper, magazine, social media site, radio station. When a company buys media, what it's really doing is buying access to the audiences of the media vehicle. I'm going to say that again. When a company buys media, what it's really doing is buying access to the audiences of that media vehicle. And remember, that media vehicle could be radio, television, print, social media, outdoor, whatever it is, okay? So media types and terms, so there's size and profile of your audience. So mass media means that the channels through which messages are sent to a large, diverse audience. So hence the word mass. Broadcast media casts their audio and visual signals broadly to reach mass audiences, okay? So there's mass media that's out there and broadcast media that shoots this message out to this whole audience. So again, the size and profile of your audience. So there's definitely niche or niche, however you like to say it, media. And that's something that's very focused to a particular segment. Okay, so an example would be if you're watching a political debate, the type of niche media would be for that specific audience. Maybe you're watching the World Cup, sports-oriented, more niche media to that audience. Okay, measured media, the ability to analyze the cost of a media buy relative to the size of its audience. So you want to know how many people do they predict to be watching the debates or the World Cup or the Super Bowl, okay? And the cost of that is on the size of that audience. Obviously, as we all know, Super Bowl ads are the most expensive ads of all time. Targeted and interactive conduits refer to the way the media transmits the messages. For instance, there's addressable media, which is internet, mail, telephone. They send brand messages to a specific address. God knows we get enough of those on our phones. Interactive is online, social, and mobile, and they allow us to have conversations between a company and a customer. And that could be via Twitter, Instagram. Okay, now there's different kinds of media that's either paid, owned, or earned. Let's talk about all three. Paid is the traditional media, okay, such as print and broadcast. This is what we consider that cluttered media that has lack of credibility. You know, I get things in the mail, I'm constantly listening to radio ads, television ads that come on. Ad placements are bought by the company or the organization, and they decide where they want it within a print or a broadcast between a particular sitcom or a news program. The place that it's also based, so is it placed in a movie, in a commercial, and online media, how they want to choose which direction to go with online, whether it be Instagram, Facebook. Okay, so owned media are channels controlled by the organization and that carry branded content, such as a video on a website, events that the organization puts on, their website that has a particular blog on it, things like that are owned by the organization. Earned media this is where it's different, okay? Earned media are channels where branded communication is spread by outsiders. That could be influencers, ambassadors, consumers like us, word of mouth, a news program. They carry stories where the brand may be mentioned, but little brand control, and sometimes it could be negative. So, um, an influencer, someone in the news, a celebrity could be talking about a product in a good or bad way. Okay, it all depends. But that's publicity, word of mouth, social media, or interest sharing. So there's a lot of evolution that's taken place clearly in media, starting with print that used to be just newspapers and magazines, broadcast, that visual audio information on radio and TV, to the digital era, which is internet, cable, satellite. Social media area is now connecting friends and contacts via um, blogs, Facebook, Instagram, connecting. So I have a great YouTube video here on the evolution of mass media. Take a look at this. I always think it's important to go back in time to understand where you are today, because a lot has happened in a very short period of time. Even though many of you may be someone who received a cell phone when you were a teen, you can say honestly that there is so much that has changed from the time you are 11, 12, 13 years old to now where you're, 18 to 25 years old. Okay. Not sure what's happening with that. Okay. Okay. So former ad executive Bruce Bendinger observed this, and I think this is very interesting, that the printing press turned us into readers, the Xerox turned us into publishers, the television turned us into viewers, and the internet turned us into broadcasters. So the first website was launched in 1991, if you can believe it, okay? All right, many of you were born around that time. Facebook only came out in 2003, Twitter 2006, and in contrast to that, newspapers started in the 1700s, radio in 1897, and the TV started in the 40s and 50s, into the 50s. So that's a big jump happening right now in the way we receive our information. So what has had to happen? People have had to adapt, okay? Media had to adjust their new circumstances by emphasizing what they do best. So media, news channels, they were losing their audiences. So they had to take some of what's new and put it with some of what's old so that their communication is still happening and there's still a rich experience happening. And there was a shift as computers and internet, personalized media, interactive dimension. Personal selling is the only media more interactive and multi-dimensional than the internet. But as we know, personal selling can be very expensive. So this is a great graphic here that just shows you that there's print and broadcast media and that they're overlapped by this digital online print video, okay? With traditional media such as print broadcasting, adding online forms was a must for many of these newspapers and television stations so that they could use what they do best, but just tweak it a little bit. And it's called convergence, okay? New media tends to launch themselves by adapting to forms of media that preceded them. Older media has to adapt by adopting some advances of new media. And for example, nearly every media vehicle now has one or more websites, which created this convergence. I like to give the example of the Daily Dozen by Forbes. And I get this every morning. I also get Morning Brew, which is a good one if you want to get something for some quick information. But the Daily Dozen is great because Forbes was a magazine, that traditional media, that knew to keep up with its audience and to keep their audience and new audiences, they had to change it up a little bit. So they now have their whole, everything that's print is online. So they do both, and that's called convergence, and that's called being smart. So contemporary media landscape has changed, as we know, from the traditional. We're getting into the new digital forms. And with digital media, the distinction between traditional and digital is less important. These days, modern media includes 200 TV channels, millions of websites, a huge number of special interest publications, leading to more pressure for integration and coordination between all of these media outlets. Key media players are the media buyers and salespeople. So let's talk a little bit about who they are and what their purpose is. So a media salesperson is also known as a media rep, and they work for a vehicle such as a magazine or TV station. So actually, I have a contact over at the Palm Beacher, which is a local magazine. Actually, I have to reach back out to her. She is someone who basically sells ads for the Palm Beacher and places them and in places that it makes sense for her clients who are high end, and by the way, are a lot of nonprofits. If you go on the Palm Beacher magazine and look in the front and back sections, it shows you all the nonprofit events, what they were doing, who the celebrity people there, all the pictures, what the purpose was. So that's a great example of media that you might want to check out for Grace Notes. But these people, they use multi-channel. They don't just, your client shouldn't just be exposed to one form of media like a magazine. Hey, what about other forms that make sense for the audience? Media brokers are people or companies that sell space and time for a variety of media. The buyer makes an entire buy with one order. So when a media buyer buys for their client, they're buying it in a variety of places that make sense for the audience at all different times of year. There's media planning, determining the best way to deliver the message and when. Media researchers compile audience measurement data, media costs, and availability of various media so that you stay on budget. And the media planners develop strategic decisions outlined in the media plan, where and when to advertise and types of media to use. And that's really important for your clients so they understand how their message will reach their audience. And that media planner knows all about where, when, why, and how. So here's an example of a social media plan. To give you an example, they break it down in video, times of year, blocks of time. So video, they have TV, they have YouTube, then you get into radio, they have out of home, which could mean a lot of different things. It could be mailers, it could be a billboard. They get into social media, getting into Google, also digital display. So this is what a traditional media plan looks like in the social side, so that your client knows exactly how much, when, where, why, and how their message will be out there. And notice the variety of ways they hit people up in a different sides that make sense. Media buyers implement the media plan by contracting for time and space based on your media planner's work. The media buying companies specialize in media research and planning and buying, and they may be a spin-off from an advertising agency and work for a variety of clients. So they could be someone that's housed within the agency, or they could be a specialization that gets used by an ad agency as needed. So I have this great example of a company, a media buying company called Duncan Channon. Check out this video. It's really cool. It's a case study about kettle chips, which are delicious, but It's called, the media program is called Stirring the Pot, that play on words. And they talk about the different ways that, how they decided on their messaging, how they decided on different media that they use, and the timing of their ad campaign. So check it out. It's pretty cool. And I think you'll get a better sense of what I'm talking about when we talk about media buying. So the fundamentals of media strategy. Well, first off, it's really important to manage all the media and maximize your budget, because the largest single cost in a marketing communication budget is media. All decision making comes together in this media plan, but the goal is to maximize the message impact, minimize the cost, and have an optimal blend of different ways to hit your customer. I say hit, but you know what I'm saying. So that's called a media mix, using different platforms. As I'm saying here, it could be social media, it could be through product placement, it could be through branded entertainment, video games. There's lots of ways in a multi-platform way to describe this communication. I'm going to move on to your key strategic media concepts here. So as we have talked about very much in this class, your audience is very important. If your audience is not connected with the media you choose, then you've wasted your money. So traditionalists here grew up with newspapers and magazines, and they're called baby boomers, and they're now in their mid to upper 50s. And they grew up with television. So this is the kind of research I'm talking about when I talk about secondary research. When you decide, well, I decided who your audience was, you have to prove why you've decided to use the media that you've used, or the medium you used. Because baby boomers grew up with television, it would make sense to do a video, a TV ad, a newspaper ad, magazine, or radio. That makes sense for this audience. But let's move on. Gen Xers were born between 65 and 76. What did they grow up with? Tape recorders, video games, VCRs, and cable TV. Gen Yers, that's 77 to 94, now 20-somethings, also grew up with the computer, satellite TV, internet, CDs, and now cell phones. And then you get into millennials. These are the younger group we were talking about. The 81 to 1996, they have DVD, they have TiVo, they've got iPods, smartphones, Facebook, and Twitter. And then you have Gen Z. Now, I know they say they don't have anything here. The bottom line is those kids were born with phones in their hands. So these people, these children now, the oldest or the youngest was born in 2010, okay, 9 years ago. So they are from 9 up into 1995. So this is the new customer. What are they doing? Do your research. The basis of the buy terms used to identify and measure audiences have to do with a lot of things. When we're talking about, say, a newspaper or print, it has to do with the exposure, the number of households watching TV, impressions, one person's opportunity to be exposed, one time to an ad in a specific vehicle. And then the circulation refers to the number of copies sold. So the circulation of a magazine, say Rolling Stone magazine versus Good Housekeeping. Okay, how many copies are sold of that? And then you can decide, hey, is this a good place to place our ad? Number of households watching. Is this a good place to be placing our ad on television? Don't know. These are things you need to consider. But these are the key words: exposure, impression, and circulation. More information on why you would buy this type of media. Things you need to look out for: gross impressions, the estimate of total impressions across a publication's total circulation. Ratings, measuring that gross impression to the percentage of households. And share refers to the placement of viewers, the percent of viewers based on the number of sets turned on. So market share, share of the market, what are your ratings, gross impressions? These are all words that you don't need to know all the details about, but you do need to be familiar with these terms as a marketer, as someone taking an advertising class who could eventually be working with an ad agency. So the key here that I want you to take away is really what we call reach and frequency. Reach is a percentage of media audience exposed at least once to your message during a specific time frame. That was our reach. The frequency is a number of times this person's exposed to the ad. Okay, they could be exposed to the ad on TV, then hear it again on the radio, then get it on their mobile device, then see a bus wrapping of an ad for that company. Okay, so lots of different ways. That's called frequency. And there is a formula out there that says that one must hear or see an ad 3 times for it to make an impact. Consider that when you're talking about Grace Notes and how you're connecting with their audience. Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about is intrusiveness. So you hear the word intrusive and it sounds, yes, intrusive. But intrusive in the world of media equals the ability of a medium, okay, to grab our attention by being disruptive or unexpected. Disruptive usually has a negative connotation, but in this way we're talking about engaging the audience and grabbing our attention. So it's a positive spin here, okay? The more intrusive the media, the more it can be personalized, but also it's more costly, okay? If something comes across that uses my name or personalizes something to me, then that's more intrusive, but it's also costs that company a lot more money rather than a mass message. If a message is too disruptive or irritating, as we know, it may not help build a positive brand relationship, like we talked about the jingles in our exercises, okay? It's irritating, some of you said after a while, but you know what? You remembered it, but it doesn't mean you remember it in a positive way. So there's a fine line. The most intrusive medium is personal selling, okay? Personal selling, that's that person at the mall selling you the product at the kiosk. It's the car salesperson. It's the department store salesman or woman. The least intrusive is print media, okay? We have to actually go and seek that out, okay? Turn a page, pick up a magazine, pick up a newspaper, which clearly none of you will be doing. So what are the changing patterns in media use? Okay, number one, the consumer has control now, okay? The media-driven lives. More recent generations spend more time with media of all kinds, and it's intertwined with our lives, okay? Go out somewhere to Panera, and if you see a family or friends, check it out. They all have their phones next to them. Some of them are on the phone looking at something while they're engaging with one another. Some people may call that rude, but in reality, it's our lives. It is what is going on now, okay? So there's what we call media multitasking. People not only spending more time with media, but they use more than one medium at a time. I like how I have this little family down here in the graphic, and even the dog is looking at, probably looking to order something off of Chewy.com. But the point here is that it's intertwined in our lives. And it's like, for most of you, it's like an appendage, you know, it is your life. If alternative media forms, okay, we're going to talk about non-traditional media, and it's an interesting area to go into as a career. Non-traditional media refers to media platforms and forms of content that are different from traditional. So I have an example here of drone advertising, which is the next new thing. not only advertising like we have Netflix here, but using a bunch of drones, thousands of them with all kinds of colors to create a, what do I want to say, like a show with a logo, okay, at a sporting event. You may have seen this where the drones all work together, kind of in a dance, and they move across the sky to form different messages, including logos. It's the latest thing. Okay, so non-traditional media is the most interesting media to me. Many of you sent me your pictures, not many, all of you, if you wanted to get points, of different things that you found that were out there that are catches your attention. It could be something like a TV in a mall, an airport TV. It could be something at a movie theater, at a health club, in-store media, in-stadium media, in-school media. Okay, alternative guerrilla, they call it guerrilla media, interactive kiosks, sampling, it could be pop-up stores, that's the latest thing these days, graffiti murals, coffee cup sleeves. I mean, there's so many different things that are out there now that have a message on it that a lot of times we don't even see all of it. But the more disruptive they can be, the more exciting they are. So the first thing we're going to talk about here is called product placement. One of my favorite things is, as a marketing nerd, is to go to the movies or watch a TV show, think of The Office, and see all the different brands that are slipped in there. It could be Hers potato chips, to Tasty Cake, to lots of different things related to Scranton, Pennsylvania, which is not that far from where I used to live. But a company pays for verbal or visual brand exposure. Nothing is by accident, okay? The product can be intrusive and different from conventional advertising, and also can be the star. But audiences can't skip through these ads, okay? They're kind of infiltrate the movie or the entertainment. Here's a great YouTube video that talks about product placement. It's pretty funny, from different familiar movies that you know about that have product placed in there. An example too, I just saw Rocket Man with my husband, who's a musician, and we both love Elton John, and we're watching it, and how many times did we see the Yamaha piano placed in the movie? Obviously, because Elton is a piano player, but they could have used any brand. But Yamaha backed it and gave a lot of money towards that movie because their brand had the exposure. So the one problem with product placement is that it may not be noticed. Hopefully now you have the curse that I have, is that I can't go and watch a TV show or movie without seeing brands. So I've passed it on to you. Also, there has to be a match between the product and the audience. And sometimes an advertiser has no idea whether the show or movie will be a success or a failure. So these are kind of the risks. And on the ethical side, when is placement inappropriate? Okay. When is it just too much? So branded entertainment is the next group we're going to get into, and this is a little more clandestine. Companies produce films for the internet where the brand is integrated into the storyline. Okay, we know this through Dove commercials, through a lot of different products that are now creating videos that are longer, that many of you enjoy. Similar to product placement, entertainment media is used to engage consumers with the brand. It's also known as advertainment or branded media. Again, I have a YouTube clip here for you, again, to bring this idea home. This is an older movie, the Lego movie, and what they did was Lego and Rovio, which is a video game developer. They achieved this kind of branded placement by taking their brand to the next level, enhancing the purpose and scope of their product. It's still very much advertising, but it's also not blatantly saying buy this product. And that's kind of what it is. It's a storytelling that connects us, and before we know it, we're going out and buying the product. Okay, so alternative media forms, search marketing, mobile marketing, you guys are all aware of this. Word of mouth, that's huge. I mean, influencers are really huge now, creating that buzz. And I'm not talking about influencers necessarily like, you know, celebrity influencers. I'm just talking about everyday people. Examples of companies that have really done a great job with this is 4Ocean and Pura Vida. And they have this viral communication that's passed from friend to friend, and it works. And I have a great 8-minute, what do I want to call it, video here from Pura Vida, right from their website. And it really talks about how they use ambassadors and how they've grown their company through buzz marketing, ambassadors, influencers, regular people that have a lot of followers, and how they've grown their message and their product. I'm sure most of you are familiar with these products. If not, you'll want to buy one. It's storytelling. It's helping other people out. It's fashionable. It's low priced. It's perfect for college students. So take a look at it. It's a great example of what I'm talking about, viral buzz marketing. That word of mouth is very different today in connecting with millennials than in the past. Again, guerrilla marketing. It's, as we said before, it's that kind of personal experience in public places, on the streets, creating a memorable, inviting experience. This is place-based strategy that creates this unexpected encounter with the brand. Here's another great example. YouTube video for McDonald's at a bus station and what they did. I mean, they really, it's so creative, but unforgettable. And when you do come across something like this, it's a showstopper, as they say. So take a look at this video. And my last slide is taking it back to food again. Reynolds Wrap Guerrilla Marketing. I love this for their foil. So creative. It's something that stops you. It's cool. It connects with you. And it's creative. So that's chapter 12. The next chapter we're moving on to, chapter 13, and that is all about talking more specifically about paid media. And we're moving right along. We have 18 chapters in this course, and I really hope that you're taking each chapter and moving it into your creative brief and getting your paper done. That's how this course kind of unfolds. We don't know everything right in the beginning clearly, and each chapter teaches us something new, and we use it to create our paper and project so that it all starts to make sense. So if you don't have all the answers right now, that's okay, because each chapter will help you get to that place.